Okay, guys, we're ready for some algebra. I know you've done algebra, you've experienced algebra. I just want to do a quick algebra review before you start on this part of your this learning experience. The first equation I want to do is 5x minus 8 equals 12. I chose this equation because this is a nice simple equation to work out. When you go to work this equation out, the whole goal is to get the x on one side of the equation. Let's do that. Let's put it x. And on the other side of the equation is all the numbers. Okay? If the x is by itself, then over here would be your solution. So I want to get rid of the other numbers that are with the x. Now I'd like to encourage you to pay close attention to how I'm talking about this, because I believe it may help you with your struggles with algebra. I know that many of you could probably figure this out by using some mental math, but I want you to think it through. We want to get rid of this 8 first because it is not attached to the x by multiplication or division. Now I have to make sure I always do the same thing to both sides of the equation. That's what keeps it balanced. Okay? Many of you like to put a line going down, and I think that's a good idea because we do not want a traveling equal sign that goes somewhere else while we're working it out. Now that I have this, 12 plus 8, on this side we would say 20. And over here we have a 5x. The next thing that we would want to do is to get rid of this 5. That's the only thing left with the x is this 5. Now since it's 5 times x, the way to get rid of it is to divide both sides. The reason why this works is because the 5's would cancel. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So all we have left is 1x. Over here, 20 divided by 5 is 4. And then we have our answer. Let's take a look at another example. This second example I chose specifically because it's one that I've noticed gives some of you some challenges, some problems. There's a lot of errors that happen with one that looks kind of like this. And perhaps you could even feel the offness of a question like this because the x is on this side and you go, I don't like that. I know that that can feel distracting, but it doesn't change from what we're trying to do. We still simply want the x on one side and everything else on the other. So don't let a problem like this distract you from what the goal is with algebra. We're trying to get rid of everything but the x. We're actually going to work it out the same way we did the last time. We get rid of any number that's not directly attached to the x first. So this is 19 over here. And since it's plus 19, we're going to subtract 19 from both sides. The 3x is right here. Our equal sign comes straight down. 49 minus 19 is 30. And then we're going to divide both sides by 3 to get rid of that 3. That's with the x. That's the last thing that's left. This causes the 3's to cancel, leaving you with 1x. On the other side, 30 divided by 3 is 10. Okay. The next equation I have picked out for you is another one that has caused a few of you some challenges. So I'm going to take a look at this one. 5x plus 2 equals 2x plus 8. Now, you technically could start this equation a lot of different ways. I could start by subtracting 5x. I could start by subtracting the 2. I could start by subtracting the, in fact, this is one of the things that a lot of you have noticed really want to do. You want to get rid of this 2 because that's what we've done before. But I want you to consider that since there's an x on both sides, I would like to recommend that you always start by getting rid of the x off of one of those sides. Now, it doesn't matter which one you choose. I could get rid of my 5x or I could get rid of this 2x. It doesn't matter. Just because I know that you like to have the x on the left-hand side, let's go ahead and get rid of the x off of the right-hand side. So since it's a positive 2x, notice I'm not getting rid of just the 2. I'm getting rid of this whole term. Since it's positive, I'm going to subtract it, which means I subtract it from this side as well. A thing that can always help you is if you write down something for algebra, always make sure that whatever you write down, you actually do. Always bring your equal sign down first. Now let's do our math. 5x minus 2x is 3x. Positive 2, there's nothing underneath of it, so we'll write down plus 2. Equal sign. 2x minus 2x is 0. I don't have to write this 0 down. Nothing underneath this positive 8, so I would write plus 8, or since there's no sign or no number in front of it, a positive 8 could just be written this way. Notice that already with the first step, and this is why I wanted to get rid of an x off of one side, it becomes a much more familiar feeling question. You should know what to do next. Subtract that 2. Always bring that equal sign straight down. 3x, remember to do the math, 3x plus 2 minus 2 is gone, equals, and then 8 minus 2 is 6. And then we're going to divide both sides by 3, and we end up with x equals, because those 3's cancel, over here 6 divided by 3 is 2. I have 2 more questions to do with you, and both of them I picked because, again, they're questions that I see a lot of errors with. This next one is one I see a lot of errors with, and I know that it can be a challenging question. So let's talk about what to do in a question like this. With this question, again, just like the last one, I could start it with any way that I want. I could get rid of this 11x by subtracting it. I could get rid of this positive 31 by subtracting. I could get rid of this 13x by subtracting. Or I could get rid of the 27 by subtracting. Since they're all positive, I could subtract any one of these to get rid of it. Now, in the very last question, I suggested getting rid of an x. I think that's a great idea. I want to do this problem the way I've seen many people do a problem like this and make a mistake. In fact, just today, I saw this mistake happen twice on this exact equation. I want to work it out. Minus 11x, I saw some people do. Minus 11x, and then they went minus 11x. So the 2 students I saw decided to do this. They said, I want to get rid of this 11x. There's nothing wrong with that. No mistake has happened yet. 11x minus 11x is 0. 31 equals 13 minus 11 is 2. And then we have this positive 27. Okay? So this is a typical good, and this is a good step. Nothing wrong with it. In fact, I would have done the exact same first step because I don't like having an x that has a negative in front of it after I do my add or my subtract. If I would have started by subtracting 13x, you could still get the right answer. But if you subtracted the 13x first, you would have ended up with a negative 2x over here. But this is a great way to go. And it doesn't matter ultimately. Here's what you don't want to do. This is where the mistake happened. I'll put an exclamation point right here. The mistake happened here. I saw the student, at this point, they went minus 31, and this is what they wrote next. They put 2x, and then 27 minus 31 is negative, what's that going to be, 4? And they put an equal sign right there. Now, can you see the mistake? What happened to this equal sign? This equal sign should have been where? Right here. Where did it end up? It moved over to the other side of the 2x. This you cannot do. So let's undo this. I'm going to click my undo button until I get rid of this. And let's go back here to where it was still correct. Right here, we're still good. Now let's do this the correct way. We don't want to get rid of this 31 because then we wouldn't have anything on this side of the equation. This is why sometimes it's good to, before you do anything, go like this. Ooh, my 1 disappeared. Go like this and write your equal sign right there. So if I think about what I need to do, I know that I don't want to get rid of this 31 because then there wouldn't be anything over here. And remember, the goal is to get the x by itself. To get this x by itself, I still have this 27 and the 2, so I would want to get rid of the 27 next. That would be the next step. And we have to subtract that to both sides. 31 minus 27 is a positive 4. Bring down my 2x. That's 0. My final step, I'm going to divide by 2, and I get x equals 2. Because those 2's canceled, give me just x. 4 divided by 2 is 2. One more example for you today. This is another example that I've seen a lot of errors happen on, and I understand it's a challenging question. If you get used to doing the problems we've been doing, and then you get one that looks like this, 3x plus 7 plus 11x plus 1 equals 36. Here's a common mistake that I will see. We'll see a student, let's put an exclamation point here. They'll start the problem off and they'll go like this. Minus 3x minus 3x. Now, let's think about what's happened here that's wrong. Notice my equal sign is over here. You've added, or I'm sorry, subtracted a 3x twice, but notice you didn't do it to both sides. You subtracted a 3x here and a 3x here, so technically you're subtracting 6x from one side, and you haven't done anything to the other side. Would this any longer remain an equal sign? No, it would not. For it to remain equal, you have to do the same thing to both sides. That's what keeps it balanced, which keeps it equal. So this would not be the right thing to do. So let me undo this and go back to the beginning of the question. Let's think about what we need to do here. For this particular question, since you have multiple terms on both sides, right? Or I'm sorry, on this side, you have more than 2 terms, right? You have your 3x, and you have your 7, but then you have another 2 terms, 11x and a 1. So we've got a lot more terms on one side. And notice some of these terms are the same type of term, like this positive 7 and this positive 1. A 7 and a 1, if you looked in your wallet, or you looked in your purse, or you looked in your drawer in your desk, and you found $7 and you found another dollar, you wouldn't say, oh, I have $7 and I have another dollar. You would say, I have $8, right? So on this side of the equation, that's exactly what you have. You have a plus 8. It was written separately initially, but if you think about what's actually on this side, you technically have a plus 8. I'm going to leave this side alone. You also have, notice you've got 3x and 11x. If you looked in your desk drawer and you saw 3 Hershey's Kisses and you saw 11 more Hershey's Kisses, you probably wouldn't say, hey, guess what, I've got 3 Hershey's Kisses and 11 Hershey's Kisses. You would say, I've got 14 Hershey's Kisses, because you would naturally want to put those together into one representation of it. That's what we would want to do. 3x and an 11x put together makes 14x. You wouldn't keep these terms separate. When you do this on a step like this, when you have multiple terms that are alike, we call this combine like terms. It's a very important step that you cannot skip. Now that you've done this, let's go ahead and solve the equation like normal. Notice this looks a lot easier at this point. I want to subtract 8 from both sides. After I subtract 8, I've got 14x. My equal sign would go right here. The 8 is gone. 36 minus 8, I believe, is 28. Oh, I forgot my x. 14x. 28. And then we would divide both sides by 14. And we end up with x equals 2. Now, this is just a little short reminder of what you're going to be doing with algebra equations. There are several IXL practice assignments. Remember, these are set to a lower grade level, And they're just meant to be reminders of how to do these things. There are several of them, but remember, you only have to get the SMART score of 50. You do not have to get the whole score of 100. When you're getting that SMART score, remember, it's how many questions in a row you get correct. The more you get in a row correct, the better it is, and the quicker you get to your conclusion of that practice. Once you're done with that, there is one little assessment at the end where you'll be able to make corrections as you go, and it's in your favorite platform, your Desmos platform. Once you're done with that, we're going to have your final assessment for this learning experience. And I hope with the 6 questions in that final assessment, you will get all 6 of them correct. And hopefully you've been paying attention all along, and I hope that this has helped you and will help you with your geometry.